I think that there's a bit of work there that we could be doing.
Oh, you've got the right three people to do some work on.
Yeah. We need help.
Some traumatised individuals.
I think there'll be some traumatised individuals watching the show.
We are the automotive industry charity, and we are dedicated here to serve people that work in the industry. On average, in a year, we're probably managing around 15,000 enquiries. We have around 65 people that work for the charity.
And how do you cope with that?
You know, it's a really, really good question.
All we do is try not to die. Makes any sense?
The first 2 months I didn't pay myself at all.
Working every hour you're awake.
Phone just does not ring.
I look so terrible because I was like working in the US constantly.
And then there's me sitting in my underpants at home trying to sell a few cars.
Wasted all of my money on cars.
£7.5 billion worth of transactions through that platform.
But Auto Trader didn't seem to care.
It makes them more money though, that's what matters.
It's 3 years ago. What do you want from a used car?
He was the grumpiest man I've ever met in my life.
I'll come up north and we'll have a few Negronis.
Go on! What a cracker!
Hello everyone, welcome back to Dealerpod, the UK's #1 motor trade podcast. This week, as always, I'm your host Stephen Douglas alongside Scott Sibley and Jamie Capel. This week's show is proudly sponsored by our own trade-to-trade platform, Dealerway. Now, if you haven't signed up, please do so. It's free to do so, and you can list your part exchanges and trade cars for free to over 3,000 vetted trade buyers. And if you're short of stock, there's plenty of cars being listed by both independent dealers and main agents. So before we get started, can you just make sure that you smash that like button, you hit subscribe, and you turn on the notification bell so you never miss an episode, because we'll drop new ones every single week. All right, let's get straight into it. This is This Week in the Motor Trade.
This Week in the Motor Trade, brought to you by Dealerway.
This week in the motor trade, what's been happening, gents? What's going on?
Jamie,
do you go first?
Sorry, yeah. Having a nice Feb, a surprising Feb. Feb's better than Jan, which I wasn't expecting. And potentially, even on a shorter month, we might outperform Jan, which is great. You know, and our year ends March. So I'm kind of a bit tense because I want us to just hit a certain point. So like, I'm starting to get a bit angsty. I can feel it myself. I'm starting to almost lose it. We're on the cusp of greatness, or I think we're on the cusp of greatness. And I just don't want us to fall at the final hurdle. And to really, really make things spectacular, I'm hoping. I've just decided to have a sale event middle of next month, which means we're just going to knock loads of money off cars, big inflatable gorilla. I need to sort the logistics, the marketing, the rota to make sure everybody's in, and probably going to cause loads more pain, issue, chaos and carnage, but hopefully will get us over the line at the end of the month. I've got loads on at the minute, but yeah, good month, which is the most important thing. And I'm here.
You love giving yourself headaches, don't you?
Yeah, I know. I think sometimes when it's a bit calm and normal, that I don't know, maybe I perform at my best when I'm under colossal amounts of pressure. You know, so I don't know. Maybe, yeah, giving myself something to focus on and to target and have these things to do and reach helps me mentally, because I'm a bit odd, you know, and apt that the guest today is from Ben, because I'm a bit mental. And I think we have to be in this trade as well. So like, if I've constantly got something to focus on and something's coming, then that just keeps me sweet. If there's nothing going on and it's not chaotic and it's all a bit calm, then that's when I have problems. So yeah, maybe I'm creating this chaos for myself, but who knows?
How have you been getting on, Scott?
Very similar, yeah. A better February than January. We've already outperformed it, so we've won a great position for the month. Yeah, really good figures and products and so on. So that's all right, and everybody's just pushing along, doing what they should be. It's all right, but yeah, usual sleepless nights, stressful times. I went to bed at 9:30 last night. I woke up at 10 to 11, and then I think I was awake till about 4. So that didn't help.
You were awake at 4. That's normally what time you wake up, isn't it?
I know. Yeah, I'm all over the place. I didn't have alcohol, so I definitely need alcohol tonight, and that'll just sort me out.
Right.
Yeah, that's the answer.
We had a storming start of February and then a soggy middle.
Right.
And it hasn't really picked up too much towards the end. So I'm hoping that it does. But actually, profit-wise, we've kept a lot of profit in the deals that we've actually done, so it's not going to be that bad. But the downtime that we've had a little bit is actually made us catch up a little bit with me buying, because we were struggling. We're still struggling to buy, to be fair, but we the cars we were buying were just replacing the ones that were selling, and I was never, like overbuying compared to what we're selling. But now I'm looking outside now, and the pitch seems to be filling up a bit now, so I'm a bit more happy about that, because I would say the last month I've been not having sleepless nights over it, but like really sort of worrying, thinking, well, what's going on? Honestly, for a while it's just looked like we've been having a closing down sale. There's been nothing outside, so no, I'm happy about that. So we'll probably need a week or two where we're a bit quiet, just to catch up. But no, that's where we are. Anyways, I think we'll stop rattling on. I think we'll just introduce this week's guest, because I think it'll be a good one, eh? Attention Dealerpod listeners, do you want a better, quicker, more profitable way of trading out of your part exchanges or overage stock? List your cars on Dealerway today and connect with over 3,000 vetted trade buyers actively looking for vehicles. No hidden fees, no hassle. Start your own custom auctions from your desk or the palm of your hand in our game-changing app, or advertise your stock on quick, easy, buy it now listings to our eager buyers who are waiting to quickly acquire vehicles. What are you waiting for? Join Dealerway today at dealerway.co.uk and streamline your disposals. So everyone, this week's guest, a little bit of a different one, not a car dealer, but certainly involved in the motor trade. This week's guest is the CEO of motor trade charity Ben. I'm really pleased to welcome to the show Rachel Clift. Hi Rachel, how's it going? You okay?
Yeah, hi, thank you. Thank you very much for having me on. It's really lovely to meet all three of you. Do you know, it's really fascinating listening to you guys just introduce your different perspectives, all from different businesses, and also your different personas and how you cope with things. So that was really nice to observe first up.
Yeah. I think if we went deep into it, you'd see varying personas.
I think that there's a bit of work there that we could be doing, but that might be for later.
Oh, you've got the right three people to do some work on.
Yeah. We need help.
Yeah. We do.
Some traumatized individuals in this room or in this web chat.
There is. I think there'll be some traumatized individuals watching the show, especially if they're regular viewers.
Well, what we know is, it's a tough industry to be a part of. It's a very passionate industry. People join it for the love of cars, for the love of the industry, and there's definitely a kind of family feel to it. But it's tough and it's hard for everyone. Right the way through, all part of the ecosystem of feeling it and feeling the pressure.
You know, it is. It's interesting to hear you say that, Rachel, where you said people join us for the love of cars, and I know there is a big portion of people that do that. Personally, I can't stand cars. I hate cars. I hate everything about cars, honestly. But I'm trying to think back to when I first started, whether I did actually really appreciate cars and really, really enjoy them. But I think over the years, it's just chipped away it is, and I just see them as a means to an end now, and it's just, someone gets excited about a car and I'm like, oh yeah, I've seen 17 of them drive past us this morning, it's just cars that grind you down. They do. They really do. Well, they have done me.
It's such an important part of our ability to get about and do stuff.
Yeah, of course.
Like the whole industry is so important to general society and what it contributes. I don't know whether we even really are very conscious of that. We keep the country moving. Massive contribution to, people that are working in the industry as well. So, just for me, I was new to the industry when I joined Ben sort of 8 years ago. So it's been a huge learning curve of the vastness and the different kind of pockets of the industry. I'm still learning every day. I will learn today on this podcast as well.
Yeah. I think we all do, though. We all learn every day, even, the three of us that you're speaking to, probably between, we've got over 60 years in the motor trade. I can't speak for you two, but I learn every single day, learn something new. I think that's just like the case with everything, though. Every industry, I'd imagine it'll be the same. So, Rachel, can you just take a little bit of time? Obviously, we'll get on to all the Ben stuff first, but obviously really keen to find out a little bit more about yourself. I know that you're actually a former Olympian, aren't you?
That is true, yeah.
Player.
Guilty. Yes. So I feel like it was a bit of a former life, but so former England and Great Britain women's hockey player, 144 international caps. So I was very lucky that I joined the sort of England squad as part of the junior development program when I was sort of 15, and unusually I stayed through that junior program into an under 21 squad, and then made my kind of senior debut at the age of 21. And my first sort of multi-sport event was the Commonwealth Games in Manchester, and we narrowly missed out on the gold medal against India. So I had a fantastic innings. Sport has been massively influential for me as I've come out of sport in terms of leadership and management, and how I apply a lot of what you do in a kind of team sport to the way that I would be running and overseeing a kind of organisation, certainly in my kind of current role as well.
Mm-hmm. So how does that work? Then how do you go from being an Olympian to being the CEO of a motor trade charity? That's quite a different career path, isn't it?
Yeah, no, it does. It definitely feels quite bonkers. I was always really clear. So I studied at school, did my GCSEs, did my A-levels, and I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do for a degree. But my A-levels I chose were psychology, biology and physical education. And for me, that kind of screamed out if I wanted to do something vocationally, physiotherapy. So I went and applied for physiotherapy courses and studied at the University of Birmingham. And I worked in NHS for 6 years after qualifying. And that was whilst I was still competing internationally. And I loved working in NHS, but there was something more out there that I really wanted to explore. So I kind of took a non-traditional route in physio and embarked upon occupational health, workplace health and wellbeing. And I do have a tenuous link to automotive because I used to be the physiotherapist at the Tile Hill plant in Coventry for Peugeot. So for a short stint, that was quite eye-opening for those that are on the kind of manufacturing line at that point as well. So I just took a different kind of direction, and I ended up in employability, so welfare to work. So I was using my sort of health professional skills, both from a physical and sort of psychological background, to support people that were out of work long term through sort of sickness and musculoskeletal, mental health and sort of cardiovascular type of conditions, to help them get back into work, developing programs to help them to manage their health condition, to stay in work as well. And I was doing that for quite a large proportion of my career and progressed through different organisations. And I'd not worked in a charity before, and the health and wellbeing director role came up for Ben at a time when they were launching a new strategic plan. And they were really looking for health and wellbeing expertise at executive director level. And I was fortunate to get the job. So I joined Ben in 2018 as their health and wellbeing director. Obviously spent 7 years transforming our offering and what we deliver to the industry, grew our kind of charitable impact and the number of people we were supporting quite significantly over that time. And that certainly was a huge wave after COVID as well. During COVID, it was a bit of a weird time because the industry shut down. After COVID, we've seen this kind of surge in people needing our support for lots of different reasons as well. And then in 2024, obviously we're successful in the CEO role. And so I've been in the role now for just coming up nearly 18 months.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Rachel, I don't know about you lads, but I've known about the charity, the motor trade charity, Ben, for a very long time, but I must admit, a bit naive to it. I really don't know a lot about it. And I'm sure, as you mentioned earlier, that, the whole thing about that Ben needs is more awareness. I'm sure that there's people that are watching the show that aren't really aware of what Ben does. Can you just explain a little bit more about, how you help people in the motor trade?
Yeah, of course. So obviously we are your automotive industry charity, and we are dedicated here to serve people that work in the industry. So we're here for the industry, but our beneficiaries are those that have worked in and work in the industry, as well as their family dependents. So we kind of look at family dependents for people that live with you really and are financially dependent on you. Mm-hmm. We're a health and wellbeing charity. So over the years we have changed. We made a big sort of strategic decision back in 2023, and we've delivered on that programme of work where we sold our care homes and a retirement village to become a single health and wellbeing charity dedicated to supporting the health and wellbeing needs of industry people. So we provide a range of different support. And I think it's quite tricky to really pinpoint what we do because it's so personalised to each individual that comes to us for support. But we operate a 24/7 helpline. We provide emotional wellbeing support and sort of 24/7, 365 days a year. We have the ability to be able to support people financially through welfare grants, through special consideration, and in urgent needs.
You couldn't put all those three into that one, could you? Financial support.
Yeah. Grant. I love Grant.
So we cover, I suppose, all bases really for people, financially, emotionally, physically, in terms of mental health, for people that are struggling, and bearing in mind that the general UK working population, 1 in 4 people will be struggling with a mental health every year. We think that situation is much worse in automotive, and that would represent, huge numbers of people in the industry struggling every year. And so it is of no surprise, especially when we live in quite a complex world, and it's ever changing that people are navigating. So our job is to really help people to navigate their way through difficult life circumstances. So if they're struggling, if they're in crisis, but also actually part of our new sort of strategy and direction of travel is helping people to know how to live well. So in giving them and imparting the kind of skills to better manage their health and well-being. And again, that's such a personalised thing that we need to support people in a very personalised way as well. So our case managers are great at breaking down what's going on for each individual, how that's impacting on relationships, families, every aspect of the life, really. Supporting people to have conversations with their employers if they're struggling with different aspects and don't really know how to have that conversation with their employer. So it's really vast, the work that we do, and it's quite difficult to articulate it in a single sentence. But we're pretty much here for everything, and I think the challenge for us is ensuring that people don't feel like we're just here for when they're at crisis. We're actually here if just things are going a bit wrong, you're having a bad day, you want to pick up the phone and talk to someone, just to offload someone that isn't a work colleague, that isn't your partner, your husband, your wife. It's just an outlet. If you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling under pressure, we are there for everything, really.
It's mental health is obviously, it's a, and I don't want to make it sound like I'm lost for words, what the word I'm trying to find, but it's a hot topic, isn't it? Really, it's sort of like it's on everyone's minds and everyone's lips. It's sort of a thing that's, I would say, over the last 10 years has become a lot more prominent out there in the media. I mean, I'll tell you, for most of my, I would say from being a teenager and all of my adult life, I've struggled with mental health issues. I've had really bad anxiety, to the point where I still actually, I'll tell everyone, I don't mind telling everyone, I still actually take medication for it to this day. I had a really, really tough time when I was really young, 14, 15, 16. And for a while, I mean, don't get us wrong, I've never been to the point where I thought, that I was going to end anything. Never been that type of person, but I wasn't far away, like for a while, and it took me a long time. I think because I was so young, and at the time, you're talking like 25 years ago, it wasn't really it was a taboo subject. It wasn't really talked about. It was like, oh, who's he? He's a head case. Him. What are you talking about? Straighten yourself out, pull yourself together, kind of thing. And obviously, I feel like now in 2026, that's like a total non-thing. Everyone's aware of it and what have you. And I think it would be a bit easier to manage that now. But yeah, so I mean, I'm really sort of on board with anyone that wants to reach out and talk to me, whether they be a friend, someone in the street, whatever, just about any sort of mental health issues, mainly anxiety related stuff, because I've had a really tough time, especially when I was younger. I'm equipped with more tools now, how to deal with it. And I understand a lot more about how my own mind works and how my thoughts lead me down a path to feeling the way that I do. But it took a long time, like a long time. And actually even talking about it now is making us a little bit uncomfortable and a little bit anxious and nervous, but I know it's going to pass. Whereas 20 years ago, I would have let that controllers and take over.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult thing. It's a hard thing to navigate. It's actually quite reassuring when you've lived through that kind of thing, that you get to this point now and you know that you're not like alone, kind of, and everyone gets those thoughts and everyone gets those feelings, and you know, it's reassuring. I'm interested to hear from you, like the sort of volumes and numbers of you know, phone calls that you get from people in the motor trade who suffer in similar ways.
Yeah, so on average in a year at the moment, we're probably managing around 15,000 inquiries where people reach out for sort of support and help. More complex support, we're providing around 3,500 to 4,000 individuals with more sort of more complex interventions. So whether that be case management, whether that be therapies, counselling, that could also be a combination of financial grants or assistance to kind of get them back from A to B, where there's a bit of an income shortfall or a gap for various reasons, really. 60% of those individuals that reach out to us are reporting to have some form of an issue with their mental health or wellbeing. And that's on a spectrum of people just struggling to actually, I feel like I'm going to take my own life and I know how I'm going to do it, which is, you know, the biggest risk factor is when somebody is showing the intent that they also have told us how they're thinking about going to do that. That does show a much greater level of, okay, this is very real and very possible. So our, you know, the type of support, the spectrum of support that we're providing, it is very low level to very high severe end. And we sadly probably would estimate that we could be losing around 2 people a week across the whole industry to suicide. And our critical response service that we offer to employers where they have had a traumatic incident, that doesn't always have to be related to loss of life. It could be an injury, an accident they might have witnessed, a traumatic incident. They are really buried, and you wouldn't believe some of the things that kind of happen out there in dealerships, on manufacturing, you know, lines. It's actually quite alarming, really, when you think about the things that happen in just life. But a large proportion of them, sadly, that we do respond to are where an individual has taken their own life and also have done that on site at their employer location, and that's tough for everyone concerned, including the people that, you know, come across that incident. So really traumatic. So this is a real issue. You know, we're not just a mental health charity, and I think the thing about mental health is it doesn't just unfold from one day to the next. It's a process that happens over time. And, you know, when you start to get more days where you're not feeling great, and I'm talking more about depression, I mean, the anxiety piece, you know, what you have said is a perfect analogy of how I think affects the way I feel, and then how I feel affects what I do, my behaviour. And that's the kind of CBT elements of the type of support that we would be providing. But those days where you feel not so good, and the longer that goes on for, the worse that situation becomes. And if you don't address it, other things then start to take effect. So poor mental health happens over a course of time, not necessarily one day I'm okay and the next day I've got a mental health issue. It doesn't quite work like that. But we're about trying to prevent that from happening and escalating in the first place. But like you rightly pointed out, Stephen, is equipping people with the kind of coping skills to be able to better manage. Who might never not struggle, but what we can do is provide the tools, the resources, and the ongoing support if needed, just to keep that person and their life on track. Because you know, I'm a strong advocate for, we've got one life and we need to try and live it as well as we can. So if we can support people in the industry to live, you know, what is their best life, that's what I'm passionate about doing.
You know, you talk about things build up over a period of time. You don't just like wake up one day and feel bad. And look, you know, Steve, brave for talking about it, man. You know, a year and a half, 2 years ago, I just a cloud took over me. Do you know what I mean? And whilst, like you say, never at that point where you think I'd do something, but starting to understand how people could want to do something, which is quite scary. And I would suggest it's kind of a step by step until you get to a point where things overwhelm you and you feel the only way to stop feeling how you're feeling is to just not feel at all. And the only way you can not feel at all is to do something, you know, drastic and dramatic. And I think from myself, I'm I don't know, up and down at times. I'm a bit of a roller coaster mentally, emotionally. I know, again, I'm a challenge, certainly for my family. I know I am. When I'm my best, I'm the best person in the world to be around. I'm convinced. But when I'm not, I can just be an absolute nightmare. And I had a period, and thankfully I've got through it. But I've had periods where I've been really happy, and then I had maybe 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 months at work where I felt miserable. And actually, on paper, I got everything you could ever want. It's like everything you could ever want. And then you start to look at like celebrities and famous people, you think, killed themselves. Well done, that guy's worth hundreds of millions, have got this, that, they've got the world at the feet, yet they've killed themselves, at the end of their life. Because how you feel is everything. It doesn't matter what, do you know what I mean? It's just, it's in there. It's your mind can be so destructive, when nothing really has changed in my life from the times I felt bad to the times I felt good. But it's hard. And I just think from having a good support network and a good bunch of people around me at work and family, that I've been able to get through those points of darkness, as it were. And who knows, in a year or 2 years, I might be like on my arse again. Do you know what I mean? Mentally, just having a good support network around is vital. And like I was chatting to someone the other day about this. If you're a one-man band selling, and again, I know you cater to all the industry, Rachel, so I'm going to be specific to us, owner-operators, for example. A lot of one-man bands out there. Engine goes on a morning, someone rings up screaming, and then a big bill hits or something like that, and there's no one around you to lift you. Because I've been there, being a one-man band and having these things that hit us that can hurt. Like I say, I rely on a team of people around me to keep me lifted. I've had people reach out to me. I'm not going to say I've done loads for Ben, but we do things for Ben as a business. So because people know that, I've had people message me like, I'm struggling a bit, I'm on my arse, or I'm worried and that, and I've sent them. I've just said, look, pick the phone up. And I always joke about the fact that we've raised a bit of money for Ben, that one day I'm going to ring up and I'll probably be on the phone for about 4 weeks, where I just unleash everything. But I've said to these people, and for me, although I've not had to use it, it gives me, I don't know, solace to know that it's there. But I'm grateful that I think I probably wouldn't need to use it, because I'm in a fortunate position with the people that I've got around me, if that makes sense. But I like the fact it's there for people in the industry, and I know, and I've referred people to ring, and they've said it's helped. So, but I've had time, Stephen, and I think this industry, certainly people who run their own businesses, attracts a particular personality. People who are, we joke about it, on the spectrum a little bit, and I think that you find it difficult maybe taking orders, and so you have to work for yourself. And I think then by nature of what we do, there are lots of people in this industry who are, I'm sure everyone in this room now, we're a little bit, I don't know, more susceptible to mental challenges, for example.
I would definitely agree with that statement. I've got something, I don't know if it's OCD. I don't know how I would categorize it, but I've got this thing where I get something in my mind, and it's got to be that exact way and if it's not, I can't deal with it. So like anything in my life, like if we're getting a few weeks ago, my son was getting his bedroom done out, and my wife said she said, look, I know you're not going to like this, she said, but I'm going to take control of organising everything for his bedroom. And I was like, what do you mean? She was like, well, I know what you like. She said, I'll pick this and pick that, then you'll stick your oar in and you'll say, no, don't do that. And then you'll get yourself all stressed and all worried, and then you'll throw your toys out the pram, and then it'll get left for weeks, and then nothing will happen, and then we'll just be back to square one. So I'm just going to take it all off your plate and I'm going to do everything. And I was like, I don't know about that. I don't know if I can do that. And eventually I sort of gave into it, and I went, right, okay, you just sort it out. I says, I don't want to know anything about it. I don't want to know the colours you're putting in. I don't want to know where you're going to put his bed, where you're going to put the clothes, where you're going to put his telly. I'm leaving it all up to you. You sort it. And actually in my mind I thought, oh, well, that's great that I don't have to get involved at all. And then I tried to avoid staying out of the room as it was getting done. And then a couple of days before it was finished, I went in the room and I was like, in my mind, and I've never told her this, so hopefully she doesn't watch this episode. I was like, I don't like this whatsoever. And I was like nearly ripping things off the walls. And I've just got, I don't know what it is. I've just got this thing where I want things the way I want things. And if it's not the way I want it, I know it sounds maybe selfish, I suppose, but like, it really knocks us. And I've found in it running my own business as well. Not that I'm totalitarian and everything's got to be done my way. I think I've learned over the years to like trust in people and let people do things. But for a long time, and certainly there is points now, I like someone will do something, and in my mind I think, well, that's not good enough. We need to do it like this. And I've had to learn over the years not to to put that out into the ether and let people know that, because it comes across as very sort of like condescending and like, oh, who does he think he is? And like, people mentioned to us, like, I don't even want to recommend you a movie anymore because you'd rip the movie to shreds, and this is not like stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. Is it control? It's kind of like,
I think it is
control. And
it is control. That's what it is. I've got to be in control of everything, and I can't be in control of everything, and that drives us wild.
Yeah, my wife is opposite, thinks I am. Again, she made me do a test the other day, and it came back, and it's like, no, this guy is definitely what I think he is. And so many of my personality traits and things that I do and how I am, and it probably explains certain things throughout my life. I don't know. Mm-hmm. You feel a bit different sometimes, without, I'm not special, but you just feel like, I don't know, maybe you think differently, or the brain works a little bit differently to the majority of people in the world. And I think just accept it is what it is. It's you. But in some respects, as much as it has its detriments and negatives, it can make you extremely driven and successful, I think, in some respects. And it can mean, it's like, it's kind of, I don't know, you've kind of got some super positives from it, but it comes with all those strange, weird side effects as well. Sorry, Rachel. Look, we're just pouring it out here, aren't we? This is like therapy for me and Ducky at the minute.
Do you know what's really fascinating? As I'm sat here, I'm playing a listening role, listening to you guys, and what I'm hearing is just really good self-awareness. Like you're understanding yourselves and who you are, and there's a lot in that space that we do with individuals that are really struggling to navigate their way around either difficult circumstances, or it could very well be where they think they might be a bit different, and they might have some form of neurodiversity, because that is obviously a very hot topic at the moment as well. And we do a lot in that space where we help people to accept that could very well be the case, and we can't necessarily provide a cure, but we definitely can help you to be aware of your strengths and what that means, and therefore how you can capitalize on those strengths and how you can also use those strengths to the benefit of others. And that's supposed to be really powerful for your own purpose and meaning and well-being. So if you feel like you've got some of these wonderful superpowers, because you are a bit different, how you use that to also support others is meant to be really empowering and really good for your kind of overall purpose and meaning in life. So we will help people to shape that, rather than feeling like it's a nuisance or a threat, or just constantly struggling and battling with it. Is how can they use their differences to, as strengths and empower others as well.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the lads have touched on theirs. I had one about a year before lockdown, and my head it was gone. And I was in like a dark place, and I didn't know why, because business, home, family, everything was fine. A bit like what James just said. And I couldn't work out what it was. And I was going to the gym in the morning, and I was speaking to one of the lads in the gym, and he was saying, there's something of firing in your head, and you need to take something like a tablet, which will make that fire again. And I spoke to the wife, and she says, no, don't get under that. And I spoke to one of my friends as well who knew somebody who'd been taking medication for it. And he says, oh, no, keep away from that. Don't get involved in that. Anyway, I battled on with it for a few months. And I went for a walk this day, and it's up like along the beach next to Beadnell, and you walk along where Dunstable Castle is. And I was in this dark place, I remember. And I got the end like on this like cliff. It wasn't like the white cliffs at Dover, but if I'd went off head first, I would have been brown bread. And I stood there for, it must have been an hour or more, trying to get my head around the whole thing. I was probably there, felt like maybe 10 minutes at the time. And I was right on the edge there, like, and it was rain. It started raining. I remember there was that rain would come sideways, and it was coming sideways along. And I just couldn't seem to get myself, like, my head right. And then I ended up walking to where I needed to be. And I thought, I'll get the bus back, because I walked about 10 mile or 12 mile. And I got to the bus sign, and it said no buses on a Sunday. And I don't know if that was like the kick up the arse. And I thought, right, well, don't be beaten, son. You know, you got to get on your toes here and get yourself walking back. So I walked back, got home, seeing the wife, and I says, look, I think it's time I need to go and see a doctor. And I went to the doctor's, and the doctor wasn't very, like, nice feeling. She was just like, she says, have you thought about harming yourself? And I said, yeah. And she says, is anybody in your family who would stop you from harming yourself? And I went, no. And I burst into tears in front of the doctor. And I'm like quite a big unit, you know. So I'm sitting there crying my eyes out, and she passes this box of tissues and then prescribed some medication. So then I went home, and Jane said, you know, what did the doctor say? And she says, oh, she's given me some tablets to take. And she grabbed them. She says, you're not taking them. She says, don't take them. Give it a few days. You'll be all right, you know, just push on a little bit longer. And I spoke to my friend who'd said not to take the tablets. He says, ring us when you've seen the doctor. So I spoke to him, and he says, no, he says, don't take those tablets. And then what I started doing was talking about it. And so I went to, like, the gym the next day, and at the auction, I was talking to Maz about it and various people in the motor trade. And I said, be in this dark place, and for no reason why. I don't know why I was in this dark place, but I was ready to, like, end it all. And the more I talked about it, the more I seemed to get this, like, power, this, like, strength. A bit like, you know, when you go to the gym and you train your arms and you get, like, a pump on. I felt, like, stronger every day. So I seemed to, like, tell more and more people about it, which seemed to, like, put me in the right place. And I never took the tablets, and I just came out of this, like, dark place. I don't know how I went into it, but then I came out of it. And then we went into lockdown, and I was worried. I thought, you know, we're locked down. You had Boris Johnson on the telly, the business is closed, and we've got all this stress now. Now what we're going to do? And I thought, is my mind going to fall back into this dark place, which it didn't. And I don't know if you remember, Jamie, when we came out of lockdown, went to the awards, and he was stood outside. And Jamie used to do this on the car dealer group. I think it might have been a Tuesday night, like the surgery thing where he'd get on. Sunday night, and he was talking to everybody about the motor trade, what was going on behind the scenes. And then Mark Thornbread, Auto Trader, they used to do their weekly, like, webinar, which I think might have been on a Wednesday or something like that. And that just kept your mind going and kept you, like, you know, so you weren't on your own out of it. It kept you involved in business and what was going on. And I seen Jimmy at the awards, and I thanked him for doing it, because I thought, you know, that he didn't have to do it, and he didn't have to, you know, share his time on doing it. And he used to go on for an hour and have a bit of fun. But that just seemed to, like, keep me going. It kept you, like, your mind in the right place. And then since then, I've never fallen, like, back over ever since then. But if I was in that place, Rachel, and let's say I rang the charity, what would be the process there? So would I get the same person to speak to? And if I shared that story with the person on the end of the phone, you know, how would they deal with that?
Yeah, so in the moment, if you were to be at crisis point, our first priority is to try and put steps in place to figure out the intent. So to figure out the level of risk that we think that you are intending on taking your own life. So that would be the first thing we need to do. And then once we've established that, we would start putting, like, a safety plan in place. So if it was an immediate risk, we would alert emergency services, because where somebody is at immediate risk of self-harm, whilst we are a confidential and independent helpline, actually where there is risk to life, that confidentiality becomes obsolete, because we have to, urgently think about the safety of that person or another. So we would either alert the emergency services or recommend that the individual, depending on where they're at, goes to A&E, goes to the GP, potentially calls an ambulance. It all depends on the circumstance of where that person is. So for you in that example, you were very remote. So we would probably need to alert the emergency services and to get there fast. But so it's all about safety. If somebody was what we would call like a more medium risk, we would start to then have more conversation, more dialogue, talk about what support is available, maybe in their remedial sphere, in their own kind of network, so family, friends, their employer, what's going on, find out a little bit more, probably allocate them to a case manager, to then carry on that conversation over a period of time, just to make sure that you would be safe and secure until you're ready for the next step, which could be taking some counselling, looking at what type of other support you might benefit from. So that's how we would approach something that was more severe, and we'd try to figure out the level of risk, and obviously cut through, for a high level, we absolutely need to prioritise your safety.
Right. Okay. Right.
How many people do you? How many people in the I said the business, the charity? How many people have you got underneath you? I say underneath you again, wrong term. So that sounds terrible.
I know exactly what you mean, so it's fine. So the charity, we have around 65 people that work for the charity.
Wow.
Our helpline. So a large proportion of that are frontline staff that work in our helpline, case management, and our specialist services. So within our specialist services, we have a range of things that we provide, including like digital sort of access to support through a health and wellbeing platform, a CBT, self-help platform, as well as the therapist side of what we do, and life coaching. Life coaching is a wonderful service. You don't have to be struggling with anything. You just need to be motivated if you want to make a change. If you're not happy about something, you can call us. You can get access to life coaching actually directly through the website. You can just go on, verify by clicking a button that you're automotive, add yourself to the waiting list, and we will contact you. And our life coaching service is really about exploring how life is for you, what you want it to look like, what's the difference of where you are now, and how can we take steps to get you there. So it's a really, really empowering, beautiful service, really impactful. I didn't answer the question. I do apologise. So 65 people, but frontline, we've got about 4 or 5 people that work in our helpline. We've got about 12 dedicated case managers that are looked after by management. And then we've got another sort of 12 to 15 individuals that work in our specialist services. And we also have a bit of outsourced provision for our out of hours. So we don't necessarily operate our helpline 24/7 ourselves. Outside of the hours of 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday to Friday, we then put our out of hours, which is an emotional support line to alleviate any immediate distress before our helpline then reoperates at the next available day.
So sorry to dive in again. So a year and a half, 2 years ago, grew my business in terms of bodies and stuff to a point where there was nearly 30 members of staff. And I found that challenging. I find actually people management is some of the hardest part of the job. So how do you cope mentally with the pressure of having to make sure 60 people are doing everything they should be doing and managing those motivated, but if I don't know, egos, relationships, clashes and everything like that? And how do you cope with that? And what are your own personal mechanisms for being able to do your role?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. I'm a very people-focused leader, so my kind of approach to leadership is very much about it's a servant type of leadership. So I am here to serve. So I'm here to serve the people that work for me. I am here to serve the people, the beneficiaries of the industry. So I take that approach. I'm also quite transformational, so I'll always be looking to the future and thinking about how change impacts on people. To be honest, it is always about reevaluating. Have you got the right people doing the right things at the right time with the right processes and the right systems? That's a challenge. That's an ongoing thing for every organisation.
Yeah.
And we're quite lucky, I suppose, because people are working for a charity. I think people associate charity with not necessarily being as high pressure. It's still a very demanding environment to work in, because if you think about it, our frontline services are hearing lots of really difficult sort of stories. And I don't like to call them stories, but they are people's personal journeys and stories. And we hear that day in, day out, and that can be really hard emotionally. So there's this thing called vicarious trauma that I have to be really mindful of in supporting our colleagues with supervision so that they can decompress and they actually feel very well supported with the things they're hearing and the way that we're supporting them. So I do try to walk the walk in the sense of looking after people's health and well-being and being very people focused. But I often will try to understand people's behaviour before I judge what's happening. I try to look into the reasons why that's happening and try to look at providing a solution to that. That's, I suppose, how I would approach things.
Yeah. Rachel, can I ask as well, obviously Ben's for the motoring industry. Are there any other industries what you know of where they've got like a specific charity?
Oh, it's a minefield. So until I had joined Ben or applied for the role at Ben, I never knew that there were all of these sector-specific charities that existed. Right. So you have it for retail, you have it for like grocery aid, which is for organisations that provide food and groceries. You've got Hospitality Action.
Really?
You've got the Firefighters Benevolent Fund. All the different statutory services will have their own benevolent charities. There are literally loads, and they're all doing similar work to what we are. And
Right.
we also work with those charities because although there are a lot of people in automotive that tend to be in automotive for a very long time, if not the whole of their career, that is a theme, and it's quite transient. So some people will move from one organisation to another. Actually, if they have worked for another sort of sector or industry, we will work with other charities that they've worked with to try and maximise the amount of support that we can provide that person. Certainly from a financial perspective, it works very well. But yeah, there is quite a lot of support out there for sector-specific charities. I think the difference for our charity is we have a huge audience. So the industry, will be employing. There's the figure that's quoted is around that 800,000. But actually, when you think about the supply chain, and you also think about family dependents, and you think about the number of people that are retired from the workforce as well, the audience that we could be supporting at any one time is millions. So it's vast, and that creates challenges because even for those working in the industry, how we make sure that they know we're here and that we're relevant for them is a big challenge. So we probably estimate that like 1 in 5, 1 in 6 people that work in the industry today know about Ben. But do they really know about Ben in a sense of what we do, how we do it, how accessible we are?
Yeah, well, that was me. Yeah.
Exactly. And we have got to break those barriers down and make sure that more people know that we're here. Because, what I can't stomach is I don't think it should be based on luck that somebody does or doesn't know we exist as to whether they can pick up the phone or not. I think anyone that works in the industry has a right to know that they have an industry charity. We're here for them for life, no matter what that life throws at them, because we're here for different life stages, and we really know and understand that those life stages affect people. So apprentices, when they first join the industry, they've got their own challenges. When people, settle down, have a family, that presents its challenges. You have relationship breakdowns, dependence. I think there's this kind of squeeze going on at the moment for middle-aged people working in the industry where they've got children that are still of an age where they're needed by their parents, and they've got their own sort of mental health and social challenges. And they've also got older dependents that they're having to think about the kind of care, and with what's happening within the social care system, that's a real challenge. So, we're just really mindful of all the different things that our automotive people are having to navigate currently as well.
And if you had, somebody in your, obviously we're employers, if you had somebody in your team who, you were aware that they weren't in a good place, is there an option there where the employer would speak to Ben and say, look, we've got this member of this staff, we've told him to ring you, but he doesn't want to. Can we give you his number? Can you reach out to him? Is that something you could do?
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have a kind of formal route where you can, use a form on our website to fill in that information in detail. But to be honest, the easiest way to do that is to probably pick up the phone to our helpline or drop an email to our support services email, which you can outline what the situation is. You can provide the details. And the beauty of that is that the proof of industry connection is already done. It's already been verified. So once we do then connect with the person, they won't have to go through a process of providing any proof of industry connection because you would have already done that as an employer.
Right. Good.
I know where you were going with that, Scott.
Yeah.
Rachel, would you happen to know offhand any sort of figures around? Because obviously the motor trade's vast. Like you say, it's not just people working in workshops or people delivering cars or people in manufacturing. It's car dealers and what have you. Do you know which sort of sector within the motor trade sort of reaches out more?
Oh, so that's a fantastic question. And unfortunately, what I think that does, I think it represents where we have been able to raise more awareness.
Right.
So I would say we have a higher level of prevalence of people reaching out to us from franchise dealers and manufacturers.
Right.
And that's an historical thing of awareness. We have not, and I put my hand up to this, of something that we need to tackle and address, which is we haven't done enough in the aftermarket and we haven't done enough in that SME space as well. And, part of what we know we need to do is really target those particular audiences for smaller organisations, medium-sized organisations, to make sure that everyone in the industry really should know that we exist. It's challenging to kind of get the message out there. For smaller to medium organisations, boots on the ground, we know, is probably the most effective way of getting the message out there. So that visibility bit. I think you mentioned earlier about seeing the Ben bus somewhere. That type of outreach activity is really impactful when we go on site and we bring to life what we do, how we do it, but also offers a medium for people to reach out and have a confidential conversation whilst we're there. And that happens a lot. So when we're out and about and we've got our outreach advisors that just feel like a safe space, more often than not, we get a bit of a flurry of calls to the helpline either after, or our outreach advisor might even call the helpline for that individual in that given moment. So there's more of that we absolutely need to turn our attention to do over the next, this next strategic period as we go towards 2030.
Where does the money come from then, Rachel, to run such an organisation? Where are you getting the money from?
So at the moment we are running at a deficit because, like most charities, that's not unusual, and we have been for many years as a charity. Fortunately, we've had the reserves to be able to fund that deficit, but our fundraising comes from corporate funds, so corporate donations, through individual fundraising. And sort of event participation. But we are raising nowhere near enough for us to be sustainable, and certainly not to meet the need and the demand that's out there. So part of the strategic decision to sell our care retirement village was to effectively unlock cash. So we have a very healthy amount of money that is effectively earning us an interest. So it's probably generating around 1.5 to 1.8 million pounds. It should give us back for however long that pot stays the same. We do need to put an investment strategy in place for those funds. We are not able as a charity to hold on to those funds. We have to spend funds. It's demonstrating that what we have in cash, we are turning into impact. That's a very different space as a charity operates. So we do need to invest in our ability to fundraise, because we could quite easily use those capital funds to keep delivering charitable impact, but eventually it will run out, and that doesn't make us sustainable. So we have to find sustainable ways for us to fundraise for years to come. So we're going to be investing in doing more in that individual fundraising space, so getting more of our automotive family donating, maybe payroll giving, participating in events. And we also need to up our game in terms of the industry and the corporate donation space. So those are the two areas that we need to push hard on. But at the same, I suppose, in the same token, this next 4 years is about really driving impact and supporting as many people as we can. So getting the message out there and really giving support to people, to the vast number of people that need us.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it's tricky. Sorry to interrupt. Sorry. I suppose it's tricky because the more you're out there, the more people become aware, the more people are going to want to use your services. And if if the dough's not kind of stacking up, hate to talk it in business sense, then you want to help more people. But like you say, if you're not, but then maybe by helping more people, you can make more awareness and raise more money through doing that as well, I suppose. That's maybe the idea.
So I think I know what that question was, and the trickiness was about balancing raising awareness and that driving service demand, and how do you meet that demand with the funds that you have. I think that's what Jamie was saying. Yeah. And that is always the challenge. I suppose we're in a fortunate position at the moment that we can deploy funds and access and liquidate funds to be able to support that demand. So if we end up raising awareness and moving the dial from, let's say, 1 in 6 to 1 in 3, and we are supporting treble the amount of people, which is our aspiration between now and 2030, that's a fantastic thing that we would have done, and we will have the resources to be able to do it. But if we keep churning out at that rate, by the time we get to 2050 or even 2040, the charity won't exist. So we want to support that in the short term with the funds we have, but we have to continue to invest in fundraising to enable us to be sustainable for the future, I suppose, is the message.
Rachel, obviously, a first time in my life, I'm starting to think about, you know, how would a major charity like yours, you know, make more money, in, you know, to help it keep going. But have you thought about, when you probably have you thought about reaching out to like some of the big players in the motor trade, like take Auto Trader for instance, you know, I'm not trying to pick on them for once, but
yes,
you know, they keep raising their prices every year. And you know, it's obviously a big thing in the motor trade, you know, amongst owners of businesses who are paying for those services, you know, that it's, you know, it's hard, and it every year that they're raising the prices, and it's costing more and more money. You know, if they were to come out and say, right, well, we're raising the price this year, but as part of your Auto Trader package, you know, we're going to charge you £10 a month to go towards Ben or something like that, which would be nothing for them. And I'm sure every person that pays an Auto Trader bill would be like, all right, well, that's fine. I don't mind that. You know, like, is that things like that, talks like that going on? Do you have things like that?
So we have got a few schemes like that. I mean, the SMT scheme that we have with manufacturers is based on a small amount. So it's about 80p per new car registration. But of course, new car registrations have reduced over the years. So what we are now generating is much less than where we were, like even sort of 10 years ago, let's say. So that is it's like recurring income that it's quite passive. We don't have to do a lot for. So we are trying to instigate those initiatives across different parts of the industry. We also have an initiative with Motability, where that is actually a consumer kind of contribution actually at the point of sale. So Auto Trader, in all fairness, are a very strong supporter of Ben themselves. So they do, they contribute in terms of corporate donations, and they also are our headline sponsor at our Ben Ball, which is our kind of our major sort of fundraising ball that we have just before Christmas. So they are a really good partner, and we do need to venture into more of these types of initiatives. So absolutely, you're spot on. We're not quite there yet, and we do need to work with the industry better to instigate and initiate, and for people to bring those ideas forwards. Because ultimately, if we're all in this together, then we're all going to be much stronger. And it's a really important area, health and wellbeing. And I think, you know, the message that I'm trying to deliver to the industry and to senior leaders is, you have to look after the well-being of your people. We can help you with that, like, significantly, and that will bring you business benefits in doing so. Although, you know, we are very much at the heart of the people and supporting the people, it will only be a good thing if we're, you know, true to our vision, which is about people thinking well, feeling well, and in turn living well, they'll then work well. Then that can only be a good thing for the industry as a whole. But we all have to be in it together in that kind of ecosystem. The big players, the smaller organisations, all doing it for the right reason. It's a massive ask, and you know, it's a good job I've got a lot of energy and passion, because I'm going to need it, basically.
Yeah. I mean, another one I'm thinking off the top of my head, I mean, you know, imagine every single car that we buy at auction, Scott, like whether it be from a Car Wow or a Motorway or a Mannheim or a BCA, you know, like we'll all get like fees for buyer's fee and online fee or whatever. Yeah. We wouldn't really bat an eyelid if there was a £1 fee on every car that you bought from BCA. You know, they charge you £1 and it went towards Ben. It would just be, people wouldn't even bat an eyelid, would they? And it would help so many ways.
I think BCA, out of our buyers' fees, were the charges fortunes for BCA and Mannheim. A little shout out to them. And I think out of our fees, they should donate £10 out of our fees for every car we buy.
100%.
So they don't add it on. They could add on the pound for us, but I think, and then we'll put £11 in for every car for all those tens of thousands of cars will get auctioned every year. That's what they should be doing.
Those are conversations I'll be trying to have. I mean, I might be, you know, you might already have them, Rachel. I don't know, but it's just thinking off the top of my head.
I think it's really intuitive that you've brought it up, because these are some of the conversations that we are having.
Right.
I think sometimes you just have to go through a process to get to the outcome that you're looking for. But no, you're spot on. I think it's very intuitive and is absolutely the sort of the right space for us to be thinking about, because what that does also is it helps us to raise awareness of Ben as well. So if people are contributing, it also offers us the opportunity to let people know that we're here for them at the same time.
Yeah,
Sorry, I was going to say they could even make that fee optional, so that if somebody wanted it to be taken off, they could. and most people wouldn't. You know, when you're forced to pay something, sometimes you give them the choice, and most people, I think, would pay it. I'm sure Fleet Auction Group used to put £2 or £3 on their invoice for Ben. I don't know if they still do it. If they still do, then fair play to them. But you're right, a tenner, optional fee. Let us know if you want to take the Ben fee off. And most dealers, I think, would just say it's a tenner. Keep it. It's fine.
I think Mannheim do. There's something on the bottom of the invoice. It's a small amount. I think that might be to some kind of a charity, but it doesn't say Ben. I don't think.
But even if it was £1 in the major paid, you know, £1 on every single car that was
even
sold.
Your car finance, Stephen. Yeah, car finance. Every finance deal you do with all the lenders, there's £2 goes on the bottom line.
No, you're absolutely right. It has these things are game changers for us.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, Rachel. I know. I'll speak to camera now. I know. Just through speaking to everyone and people reaching out to us and relationships I've built through doing this podcast, I know that there is hundreds of suppliers, people who work in big companies who watch Dealerpod and listen to it every single week. And if you're watching this and that's got your neurons firing, or you're passionate about helping people, or you know you've had to use the service yourself, just reach out to the higher ups. You know, if you're working for a, you know, I'm not going to call companies out, but if you're working for one of these big companies that we're maybe talking about, you know, see what can be done, because it would literally be water off a duck's back to a car dealer to pay £1 for every time they buy a car, or every transaction that they do with a certain company. And I think if you are you know, watching the Dealerpod and you're ahead of one of those companies, or even a smaller company, you know, anything that you could do to help Ben out, to help them raise some money would be fantastic. And whether you reach out to me or Scott or Jamie direct, and we'll try and put you in touch with Rachel, that would be fantastic, I think. And hopefully we'll get something from that. Rachel, with everything that was spoke about, if somebody does want, you know, an individual wants to donate to Ben, how would they do that?
Yeah, so I suppose the best catalyst for everything that we're doing, whether it be because you want support or you want to know more about what we're doing and you want to participate in an event or donate, is definitely our website. So www.ben.org.uk.
Right.
You can donate online very easily. And sign up to regular giving as well. You can sign up to participate in an event, but there's also an array of different services that you can access also through the website. So definitely the port of call. But again, if you're not sure, then we've got our helpline number. So 0808 131 1333. You can ring the helpline and they will also signpost you if you wanted to donate, access support, or support us in any other way that you feel that you can and want to.
For somebody watching this show who is maybe feeling that they might need Ben's support, and maybe we've touched the nerve with someone on various subjects or what have you, and maybe hopefully this show might have been the catalyst to think, oh well, I am actually going to call up and ring Ben or get in touch with them. Is that the same number?
Yes, that's
the same number that they'd ring.
Yeah, single point of contact, same number. If it feels a little overwhelming, because it can be such a big thing to make the call, you can go onto web chat. So that's also available on the website. And often what we try to do is get people to feel a bit more comfortable, and then we would call you, or we would try and encourage you to call the helpline so we can have just a more human conversation. So our web chat is not like a chat bot. It is a human being behind the web chat as well. And again, the email, so support services at ben.org.uk is another way that you can also access, or at least find out a little bit more about what we're doing, or reach out for support. And if it's done from a work email, and it might not be that everyone's got a work mail, but if it's done from a work email, that automatically verifies proof of industry connection. But helpline is, you know, I would ordinarily signpost people as a single point of contact.
Great. Rachel, thank you very much for coming on. I hope this show has done a little bit to help get the name out there and the word out there, and hope we'll see some benefit from it.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to kind of get to know you guys as well. And thank you for being so honest and vulnerable with your kind of stories too. Really, really appreciate that, because I think it brings to life that, the world isn't an easy place, and it's okay to say that. It's all right to get that out there.
I think me, Scott, and Jamie will be ringing the helpline after the show.
Absolutely, no issue whatsoever.
I was thinking about the coaching thing. What you suggested, maybe that they could help with exiting the motor trade and getting out of it all. Get some advice.
Funny you should say that we do have some people that have maybe found that it's not necessarily the right place for them, and that might be right on their journey.
I've employed a few of those over the years.
I'm in that gang. I'm in that gang.
So, but the thing is, once you've worked one day in the industry, you have access to Ben's support for life. So
great. Right, that's it. Thanks everyone. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and you support. You donate to Ben. That's great. Thank you everyone. See you on the next one.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.